white population. There was total segregation. And it was difficult for us because we had a lot of black friends in Washington. And we had to meet them either at their house or they would come to our house, which was the Turkish embassy then. We started to have these Sunday lunches at the Turkish embassy where we invited the musicians who would usually play on a Saturday night in Washington. We'd have jam sessions, and a lot of very famous musicians played at the jam sessions, such as Rex Stewart, Joe Marsala, a famous Chicago-style clarinet player. My brother and I, Nestle, we became friends of Teddy Wilson, Lena Horne, and Duke Ellington, and we put on the first integrated concert in Washington where we had black and white members of the orchestra on stage, people like Lester Young, Pee Wee Russell, Henry Allen, J.C. Higginbotham, members of the Count Basie Band, members of the Duke Ellington Band, and also we had an integrated audience. I felt that I knew what black life was in America, and I knew what black music was in America, and I knew what black roots and what black gospel music and black blues from the Delta that went on to Chicago, and the Texas blues that went on to the West Coast. I knew what they were, and I knew all about that, and I loved all of that. So in loving America, I thought I loved something more than the average American knew about.
With the signing of the Clovers, Ahmet had to write them a song. It was his first, and he signed it Nugetri, Erdogan spelled backwards.
Don't you know I love you so? Don't you know I love you so? When we signed the Clovers, Ahmet sat down and wrote a blues song for them called Don't You Know I Love You. And it was a hit when we put it out, so that encouraged him. And under the sobriquet of Nugetri, which is Erdogan spelled backwards, he wrote quite a few good songs. So as I say, he was hip to the tip, as we say. In other words, he was not a square. He was somebody who understood the idiom.
Clovers are blooming in jukeboxes all over the country. Flowers, you know.
Sweet. When you walk down the street, I said you're the sweet fool, and I was to fall for you. Oh, what a fool I was to think.
I wanted to do real hip, funky music. So when I got the Clovers, I thought, well, I can't get a song. I started to write songs out of necessity. You know, the publishers, they didn't want to give us anything anyway because they thought the little company out of a little hole in the wall, you know. So I forced them to record this song. A miracle happened. I was never in my life so amazed. All I could hear was this song blaring out of all these music shops. I mean, the Clovers did not want to sing it, you know. It was forcing soul on these people, you know.
I can't forget you, darling. So I'm left out in the cold. I guess I still love you and will always be the same old fool. And I was to fall for you. Oh, what a fool I was to think you could love.
Ahmet could write a lyric faster than some of the people we hired to write lyrics. You look at the hits that Nugetri wrote. I mean, it's frightening. What we were doing was having a good time. We'd lived through a hell of a time. We'd survived the war and every other fool thing. And here we were finally playing. But we were 25 and 30-year-olds playing. And we're having a good old time making records and telling stories and communicating with people who were not the spoon-fed people that you're accustomed to hearing by the major record companies.
Barbecue, the band was jumping, the people too, mess around. They're doing the mess around.
We started Atlantic Records with $10,000. It cost $3,000 to buy Ray Charles's contract. And I tried to make Ray Charles make records like we were making hits with the Clovers. But it didn't work with Ray Charles. What we told him was not as good as what would happen if we didn't around with him and let him do what he wanted to do. Because he got his shit together when he got his own band.
Mama, don't you treat me wrong. Come and love me, daddy, all night long. All right. Yeah, it's all right now. Hey, 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 girl. When you see me in misery, come over, baby. Nah, nah, nah. It's all right. I know it's all right now. Hey, hey, hey. See the girl with the diamond ring. She knows how to shake that thing. Nah, nah, nah. Early morning. Now she's all right now. Hey, hey, hey. Play one time for me.
Early in his career, Ray Charles imitated Nat King Cole. But when Ahmet gave him a classy, brassy band, Brother Ray found his real voice.
See the girl with the red dress on. She can bird land all night long. Nah, nah, nah. She's all right. I tell her she's all right now. Hey, hey, hey. Tell your mama, tell your pa, gonna send you back to Arkansas. Nah, nah, nah. If you don't do right. Oh, no, you don't do right now.
Somewhere along the line, Herb had to go back in the military service, and he and Miriam, hoping that they could defeat the process, had a baby. It didn't do any good. Herb still had to go back to the military.
Herb, who had received an education in the Army as a dentist, was redrafted and went to Germany. And we needed somebody to help Ahmet with the recordings. And Jerry Wexler was a friend of all of ours. His taste in music was about the same, so he came in to fill the gap. Then when Herb came back, Jerry remained. Of course, he was a partner. I think at that point, Herb began to feel like he was the fifth wheel on the wagon.
Since I met you, baby, my whole life has changed.
Ahmet and Herb Abramson asked me if I'd like to go to work for them. So I had the nerve to suggest, take me in as a partner. They thought that was hilarious. This could be good. Yeah, for Loopy, please. Is Jerry Wexler returning his call?
He has stepped out to get a bite.
A year later, they came back to me and said, you can come in as a partner. Miriam Abramson dumped the mail on my desk and said, go to work. Went to work. It was the top floor of 234 West 56th Street over Patsy's Restaurant. We had one big room toward the front of the office on the street side facing 56th Street. And Ahmet and I each had a desk that was sort of catty-cornered to each other. When we had a recording session, we would move the desks to the wall and we'd put one desk on top of another. And that's where I got some back trouble that lasted me for several decades. And Tom Dowd, our young engineer, the boy wonder, would set up some folding chairs, some camp chairs, and a few microphones. I say few because in those days we didn't mic everything. And after the session broke down, the desk would move back, and it became an office again.
The business escalated, and the company got bigger. So when I returned in 1955, I didn't want to break up the team that had been working so good together. But then we started Atco Records, and that was like a subsidiary that I produced things on my own. And among the records I made, I did A Tear Fell with Ivor Joe Hunter, and 7 Days for Clyde McFadder, and Atco was pretty hot.
If we didn't make a hit record to release next week or the week after, then we wouldn't collect for the record that we sold last month. You have to have a hit in order to collect for last month's record. Otherwise, you're out of business. You have to be the Bank of America if you didn't have 2 hits back to back. So we were always looking for songs, artists, and make a hit, make a hit, make a hit, all the time.
With Clyde McPhatter and the Drifters, Atlantic found a magnificent gospel-based vocalist who also gave the company its first brush with the sound.